Welcome back to the I Don't Want a Divorce podcast. Today's topic, Codependent Lie number 11, as we continue in the 20 Lies book. And that lie is this: because my spouse has a serious mental health problem. Who could leave a spouse who is mentally ill? You, that's who. I'll explain why in this podcast. Now, for the holiday season, now until Christmas, December 25, every ebook on our website is on sale. That website is davideclarkphd.com. That's Clark with an E. Instead of $20 per ebook, which is still a reasonable price, they're going to be $10 until Christmas. So go to the website and order some ebooks. This is a great savings. Also on my site, you'll find all my resources for marriages in crisis. That's what we do. Marriages in crisis. You name the crisis, I've got a plan for it, guarantee you. And you can even talk to me about your crisis by using my phone advice service. 98% of my practice now are phone advice sessions. One time, maybe two times. I get the background, the history, and I will tell you what to do. I'll give you a plan of action. Now, today's topic, Codependent Lie number 11. Because my spouse has a serious mental health problem. Here's the voice of the abused. I feel guilty leaving him because he has an addiction. He has bipolar disorder. He has depression. He was abused as a child. He has PTSD. He is on the spectrum. Or fill in the blank with his mental health problem. How can I leave someone who has a disorder or a disease, Dr. Clark? I'm supposed to stay through sickness and in health, right? Not necessarily. Here's the fear underneath the lie. My spouse will die, commit suicide, or end up homeless, and it will be my fault because I abandoned him. Now, all these awful things may happen. I'm not going to say they won't, but if they do, it will be your abuser's fault, not your fault. It's not your job to get him into recovery. That's his job. He knows his personal problem, whatever it is harming you and your family. He couldn't care less. He chooses to deny he has a problem, or he chooses to hide behind his problem and continues to abuse you. I'm not talking about someone who has a horrible car accident and there's brain damage and he's compromised maybe for the rest of his life, or she is. Look, that's awful. You're not leaving that person. That's a totally different scenario. This is mental health, and it's not a black and white area. What does the Bible say? In Genesis 3, verses 1 through 24, we see that three persons sinned in the fall: Adam, Eve, and of course Satan. All three were held 100% responsible for their sinful choices. All three had consequences from God. Throughout the Bible, when you choose to sin, it is your fault 100%. Exodus 20, verses 3 through 4. Any person who refuses to work on his personal problem, could be a mental health problem, makes that problem an idol. It becomes his God. So he breaks the first two commandments. 1 Corinthians 6, 19 to 20. A person who refuses to heal and recover from a damaging personal problem is not taking care of his body, the temple of the Holy Spirit. If he's a Christian, that's a sin. And then James 1, 13 through 15. A person sins by his own choice and his choice alone. Here's my experience. His personal problem, let's say it's a man, your husband, his personal problem is a sin because of the damage it causes to him, you, and the children. His refusal to work on his problem is also a sin, in fact, even a greater sin. Let's say he's got a bona fide mental health disorder. Okay, fine. All right? If he refuses to work on that problem, that is a sinful choice, which then causes his problem to do incredible damage over time. His personal mental health problem is a separate issue from his abusive behavior. I want you to believe that. His mental health problem is not the reason he abuses you. You've convinced yourself of that. Not true. He abuses you because he's an abuser. If suddenly he had an epiphany or some great healing and the mental health problem was no longer there, he'd still be abusing you. You want to rescue him, don't you? Most women are rescuers by nature, nurturers. You want to help him get into recovery from his individual problem or problems, don't you? Why? Because you're a nurturer and a rescuer. You know who you should rescue? You and your children. That's who you should rescue. You think that if you help him heal from the mental health issue, he'll be grateful and be able to be a good man and husband and father. This is not a Hallmark movie. It's not going to work out that way. He will continue to resist all your efforts to help him deal with his mental health issues. Guess what? He doesn't want to be rescued. He doesn't want to get into recovery. He won't do anything to get healed from his personal problem. Will he? He may make lame efforts from time to time to get into recovery, but he only does this to look good and to stall and to buy himself time. I had a friend, I won't mention his name, of course, but for years had a bipolar disorder. He refused to get that bipolar disorder treated. I'm a clinical psychologist. One of my really good friends, I said, you've got bipolar. You need medication. You need evaluation. He refused. That was a sinful choice. He destroyed his marriage. He destroyed his family. That was his fault. His wife took it for longer than she should have. The harder you try to help a person like this, the worse he gets. You make all kinds of excuses for your abuser's mental health problem, don't you? Here's some. You say, he had a tough childhood. I say, so what? So have many spouses, and they have chosen to work on their personal problems. You say, he has a chemical imbalance, Dr. Clark. I say, what he has is a character imbalance. If he also has a chemical imbalance, fine. He can choose to get treatment for it. We have incredibly effective medications now for the spectrum, for the variety of mental health problems. He won't take the medication. Okay. You say he doesn't realize what he's doing. I say, yes, he does. He knows exactly what he's doing. He just doesn't care about the damage he's causing. He is choosing to not get treatment for his problem. Like my friend, he liked being bipolar because of the rush, the adrenaline, all the things he could do, the feeling he got, even though it was destroying his wife and his family, which is what I told him right to his face. Didn't care. You say he's a good man deep down. So you want to believe that. That's how you sleep at night. I say, no, he's not. What kind of man refuses to work on a serious mental health problem that is harming his family, destroying it? He's a bad man, deep down and all the way through. Your excuse. You could say, oh, it could be worse. I say, don't worry, it will get worse the longer you tolerate and enable him and his problem. You know what? He does have a disorder, maybe more than one. Who cares? God doesn't care, and I don't care, and you shouldn't care. God cares about obedience and actions. God never ever allows anyone to pass for sinful behavior. You give your abuser a pass because you want to believe he'll eventually change. If he gets help for his disorder, his addiction, or whatever his problem is, then he'll be different. He'll stop hurting you and start loving you. That's pie in the sky thinking. It's not happening. How many years has it been? The truth is, he's not going to work on his problem. He's not going to get into recovery. He's not going to change. The only way a man with a mental health problem, or a woman or a wife with a mental health problem is going to change is when you leave that person. Following my book, Enough is Enough. Get out. Get your kids and leave. At that point, that'll be the only chance he ever has to finally look what's happened and get some help. He probably won't, or she, but maybe. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Stop all efforts to research and understand his individual problem. You're killing yourself for nothing. He should do the research, like he'll do that. 2, stop all efforts to get him to work on his problem. You're beating your head against a wall. 3, work on your problem of codependency and enabling his sinful behavior by continuing to listen to these podcasts and get my book and read it, 20 Lies That Keep You with Your Abuser. Your mental health problem is your codependency, but we can solve that. And if you'll work on it, you'll get out of that, you'll leave him, and life will get a lot better. And he'll have a chance to change. Now, thanks to all of you, and we mean this from the team here, who have subscribed to my podcast and left a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. This helps us grow and have more impact.